I'm not going to worry about your level of concern.
Yoy and double yoy.
We talking about
Twitter.
Triple yoy.
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Quadruple yoy.
Never give up on the Steelers.
Everybody else gets a little tight. I've had really intimate relationships with individuals at that position. We want them to be fat and sassy and spoiled.
So, James Meekner wrote about the fan, lowercase.
Yeah.
You know, while sitting and watching, he contributes nothing to the common good and does not do those constructive things he might otherwise have done.
I mean, it seems like it would have come out with his Michener quote much earlier than that, but it fits. It fits.
You know, people say fan is short for fanatic, but actually it is not. It is actually short for the fancy, which was a boxing term in the 1800s. You know, the fancy is the fan, not the fanatic.
I mean, I get it, but that makes a lot less etymological sense than fanatic.
Well, they come from two different words.
Okay.
You know, it's not the same Latin. You know, according to the American Heritage College Dictionary, my go-to.
Right. Oh, for sure.
I'm not a Webster man.
No. It's our heritage.
A fan is an ardent devotee, an enthusiast, whereas a fanatic is a person marked by an extreme, unreasoning enthusiasm as for a cause. So, you know, I guess the distinction there rests on whether your enthusiasm is ardent or unreasoning.
I'm not sure how much extreme enthusiasm we encounter in this line of work.
It's not enthusiasm that we're encountering.
That's what I'm saying.
These fanatics, I could go for some enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm would be a distinct improvement.
So this is not a show for Steelers fans.
Okay.
This is for Steelers Fancies.
Okay. Finally, that's it. I'll wear a collared shirt next time.
This is what Jin's talking about. The conversation about the Steelers conversation. I am the king of the fancies. Kyle Kreis. With me is the king of the selfie, Greg Benevent.
Hello.
On the ones and twos, the Model Meatball, Rob Banks.
Thank you.
Back from fishing
Upstate
territory.
New York.
Salmon River.
That's
Okay,
great.
well,
That's
King
great.
Salmon.
That's great.
King of the salmon. We got the king of the fancies.
An entire royal court here on the podcast today.
Honor to be with you guys.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you.
Coming up in the second half, is there anything to tease, really? I don't know. I don't even, you know. It's like
It's the bye week, so, I mean, it can be a little bit loose.
some defensive, you know, it's not even, it's not just Canada hate. We'll get to, because it's like Teryl Austin hate, too, for
Which,
no
again,
reason.
as I was going to say, that's even less motivated after this past week.
All right. Why don't we get to the takes? Starting with at Fan Morning Show. The Fan Morning Show. Insider Ray Fittipaldo believes these Fire Canada chants may be going too far now. I'm a fan. I'm finally a fancy of the fan. Here's the quote from Insider Ray Fittipaldo. It's a little bit ridiculous. I don't know if I've ever heard one that negative towards somebody. It's getting pretty out of hand. Finally, it's like, what's it going to take for someone to come around to my side of things?
Well, I think also a lot of this, at least the way it seems now to me, is that when you're doing it like to get a reaction from the other fans, you're doing it to look cool in front of them. Like when one person says Fire Canada, the next one has to take it a step further and a step further. And that's how it, you know, I'm sure it's happened at social events that aren't nationally broadcast in and around Pittsburgh as well.
Oh, yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm going to be cool with my friend here and, you know, Fire Canada. These sheep fucking, pardon me. I might have to edit
But
that
I'm sure
out.
it's been mentioned at, like, weddings. I'm sure it's mentioned, like, on the bus. Like, I imagine Fire Canada has become something of an inside joke in Western Pennsylvania.
No one better joke about it with me because I shut that down real quick. Actually, someone's just like, "Oh, Ken," I'm just like, whatever. I've seen him come back from worse. That's usually my response.
And you've
to any
seen
of
it
that.
within the last week.
Yeah.
Like you've seen it within days.
Well, it's like what a real fan would do, what a real fancy would do. Look how the Jets rallied around their offensive coordinator when Sean Payton was like, this guy's the worst coach in the world. And they came in, and look, that last year's Broncos were pretty gnarly.
That was pretty bad.
But they rallied around their coach and made it a statement game.
Well, that, and also, too, I mean, that's something of a different situation. I mean, that's the head coach of another team. I imagine this would be very different if, John Harbaugh had gone up at the post-game press conference and wow, Canada sucks. Anyway, we got to stop dropping balls out there, and I don't know what happened at the end of the first half.
He's the only one. I mean, these other coaches are the only ones that aren't, it's every analyst on TV, including Ryan Clark, including Chris Hoke, including, I don't know if Motzi's is gone that far.
I haven't watched a lot of Motzi.
No, but it's like everyone else, thank good. It's like other coaches know not to give bulletin board material. Everyone else, though, and I'd love to see Tomlin, or Najee's kind of already done it. I'd love to see Kenny, or I want to see Coach Tomlin do it. Just be like, look, Matt Canada is our guy, and we're sticking with him through 17 games, and there's nothing you can do as a fat sassy fan.
Well, I think that's one of Tomlin's "I don't make statements, I make moves" kinds of things, and also too, I take Tomlin's comments after the I want to say it's before the Ravens game, might have been before the Texans game, about how we're looking at everybody to be both an endorsement of Canada and also a sign that, hey, this does need to improve as well. But I would be surprised if Tomlin were to make a statement like you were saying, unless, again, someone else on another team in a way that Peyton did, which is like several steps over the line for the fraternity. I mean, I've never seen something like that since maybe like the 80s, when I wasn't even following football yet because I was too little to say something like that. That was bizarre to me, the Peyton thing.
It's going to become, it's almost on the verge of distraction when you can't play a home game without the crowd having a chant. You can't go to a press conference without, 2 or 3 insiders, hedging around the question, like, well, what are we going to do with these offensive?
Some of them weren't hedging. I mean, distinctly asking, so the play calling is like, well, we're trying to, no, the play calling, that's one of the few things you've seen them really drive for a follow-up for.
At what point is this going to become a distraction from things? It's like, enough, we get it. No one is happy with Matt Canada. No one. I'm not happy with the offensive production, but I'm sticking by him. I'm rooting for him to get it together.
Oh, I'm rooting for him too. And if Tomlin were to let him go, my heart would be okay with that as well. But certainly I'm rooting for him to make this work. Yes.
Okay, how about at Yinsburg Sports, Yinsburg Adam? Do these people genuinely not think they're losers by doing this? That's what, especially when we saw it at the Pens game. I'm just like, okay.
Which is where it started, as Kovacevic pointed out. The Fire Canada chants did start at the Penguins games before the Steelers games. He's right about that.
Why? Because they had nothing to play for, last April? I mean, is that...
Well, they won fewer championships recently than some other teams as well. But yes, no. The Penguins, it was, somebody pointed out that it was the turning point in the season opener as well, that they were up 2-0 before the chant began, and then after that they ended up losing to Chicago.
You jinxed yourself, huh? You played yourself.
I did, but it is a way to show solidarity. I mean, there's few other cities where you're going to get fans this enthusiastic that root for all of the teams. I mean, having lived in Philadelphia, having lived in Los Angeles, you'll find people that only care about one team. That doesn't happen in Pittsburgh.
I think we're on par with Philly and New York fans at this point. It's like, man, when I was in New York and we read the Post every day, and it's like, man, they just crapped on Eli, and I was just like, man, is that just a New York thing? And then Philly, being at Penn State, you had your share of Philly fans.
Absolutely.
And the only time I saw someone yelling at their TV in April at a baseball game, it was Philly, and I'm thinking, it's the first week of baseball season,
right.
And you can't be that mad yet.
Exactly. Right, especially. Well, I mean, I don't know what it's like to have a baseball team where you have expectations for. Perhaps that's what it is. I certainly wouldn't know, but yes.
I mean, about here in L.A., 10 years of L.A. Dodgers playoffs, I don't see people turning on them, because they can't.
Mid-second inning, he's like, "Oh, this is bullshit."
Right? I don't see anyone, but in Pittsburgh, they're on the pair. We're on par with Philly and New York now.
Well, I think there's a different level of expectation. In Pittsburgh, they expect to win.
Well, what in New York they don't? I mean,
I don't know. It's been a minute for the Giants there. They keep trotting out Danny Dimes.
Let's go to at Joey Porter CB, Damian Jazowski. Defending Canada in any way is apologist. This guy deserves credit for nothing good. I don't care if he gets us to score 70 on the Niners. He doesn't deserve credit for anything. It's base. I don't know if he's saying bias or basic.
I have no
It's
idea.
base. Yes, very base. Yes, the base. But it is what it is. People wanted to give all the credit to the Pickens touchdown to Kenny because he called the coverage and he called
he rolled the protection over
the hot route or something. It's like, who taught him to do that?
Right. That's exactly how these things are supposed to work. It's supposed to be Canada's supposed to put the quarterback in a position where he can do those things. He can do the things he did. I mean, but this tweet, I think, speaks to a lot of what you're talking about. Is here's somebody that, is so filled with hatred for Canada that it's bled into other aspects of their life. It's broken down their ability to communicate. I mean, this is, to use the word apologist is wild. Like it's a Canada separatist. Someone that only can, they say something nice about Canada and then it must be cast out.
I mean, let's get to the celebration. People acted like he wasn't celebrating. And
this was the worst thing.
And then it wasn't just stupid fans. I was one thing if you just saw it on Twitter, but then it was like McAfee was talking about it, and it was just like, what are we talking about?
Of all the people that should know better, someone that's actually been around the game.
Talking about, whether or not someone is celebrating or in the middle of their job, like. And first off, they didn't leave the camera on him long enough really to see, I mean, just whatever. Who cares if he was stoned? Does Belichick cheer on the sidelines?
Well, two things. Alan Saunders brought up the best point, and I've certainly come to appreciate his takes more and more as the season goes on. He made the point that Canada's the only person in that booth still working because they're the one who have to figure out what the 2-point play would be if there's going to be a 2-point call, which is what Tomlin wanted. And that is a very good point. My first thought when I saw it was, just speaking from personal experience, I know a lot of times if something I want to happens and is very good, I'll react exactly the same way because I'm relieved. I don't dance, I don't yell, I don't put my hands. I'm just like, okay, and then just move on to the next thing. So I totally got it. I had no idea it was a story until after. Like, I would not have believed that to look at it at the time.
It's just, we get mad. Oh, Kenny can't audible, and we're mad at Canada. Then Kenny slides the protection. Now we're mad that Canada, that's not his responsibility. That was Kenny. It's just, now he's not cheering in the sidelines. It's no matter what he does, he's not gonna take a win.
Well, this is absolutely, again, where if you, the fan, look at that and are concerned that Canada's like mad about the play call or not celebrating enough or something, that's the line of when I've gone too far in being a hater. I have lost my perspective in that I just projected this on this man versus these other things I've thought. That's where, to get back to what we spoke about last week, you've kind of let your emotions run too far. And frankly, you should react to things more stone-faced like Canada did.
It's not like Canada's going to be in the locker room next to Marcus Allen dancing the,
yeah,
take
Canada
over
isn't choosing the music in there either.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
Although I would love to see, that's what he should have done. Canada should have got down to the locker room after the game and then, he
was celebrating with some of the guys. I forget who said that on Twitter. He was hugging guys and thanking guys. Unfortunately, we had no footage of that. That would have been, because can you imagine how we would have Zaprudered that?
Oh,
like he's not hugging him tight enough.
Canada's hugging men. Oh,
no, but it wouldn't have been that. It's been like, he doesn't really like Kenny. He didn't hug him tight enough. He didn't clasp his bag.
Oh, to be like, look who didn't hug. Oh,
right,
Pickens didn't hug Canada. Look, Mason Cole didn't hug Canada.
Right, exactly, because these are grown men that just took a shower after getting beat up for 3 hours. Yes.
Okay, all right. Can we? How much more Canada talk? How about at Timmy K33?
Oh my God,
Tim. Biggest villain in Pittsburgh sports history?
I'm assuming this was tweeted by the baby in this photo and not the grown man, because that's the only way this makes any sense. I can think of villains off the top of my head. So I mean, just because I'm wearing a Penguins jersey because it's a bye week and it's the start of the season. But if you weren't around for Marian Hossa, that's as much as I've ever seen Pittsburgh hate anybody. And again, that was a guy that never said anything. I mean, I don't think he ever made a comment in the press whatsoever. And I've never seen hatred like that. This is somebody that doesn't at all remember Barry Lamar Bonds. Was
it Bonds or Bonilla? Didn't I know it was after he left, but didn't fans throw batteries at either Bonilla or Bonds?
I mean, I never heard of that happening, but it's entirely possible it did. I mean, it's
I think it was Bonilla.
If you threw them at Bonds, his body could have absorbed them and made himself even bigger. I mean, even in football, the biggest villain in Pittsburgh sports history. Oh my, Tim. You need to take down the Christmas tree and get with the times. Tim.
Is it
Tim.
Brady? Is it Brady? Is it Harbaugh?
I mean, it's Brady, but Brady won. It's the villain is someone. It's not just somebody that wins. They feared Brady. Villain implies an amount of hate too. It's a player that. I mean, Pac-Man. Perfect. Guys like that. I mean, that's because again, those are guys that like Brady, whatever you think about it, is more or less an upstanding dude. Those men perhaps a little rougher around the edges.
So that's a hot take. Okay, all right. How about let's move on to @_Adam Crawley. Adam Crawley. Steelers insider Mark Cabali, insider on insider action.
Yes.
Cabali says that he heard Byron Leftwich has reached out to the Steelers about being an offensive consultant, but that the Steelers are more or less ignoring him. So that tells me that the source is someone in Byron Leftwich's camp.
Yes, perhaps even Byron Leftwich. I mean, this. It's a good news story because it's man tweets former colleague about potential job opening.
What, is there an offensive consultant? I don't think that, is there a...
Remember they brought in that guy whose name we've already forgot, and we talked about it for 5 minutes back in March or April when it happened. They brought in some guy. You and I can't even begin to think of a name of this guy, but allegedly this guy is the other offensive consultant person, and no one has even remotely said this man's name in terms of him replacing Canada. So,
I mean, we don't even, besides Flores last year, who they kind of brought in as an extra.
And they, frankly, they knew he'd be gone immediately.
Yeah. Would you take Leftwich? I don't, it's people think Leftwich is going to be the answer because what? Because he was the OC on a Brady team?
Well, I mean, he had a good track record of teams getting better, and he was doing better in the desert there too before Brady. But last season was not good with Brady and that offense. I mean, granted, it's a lot of old guys, but there's a reason all those guys got fired when Brady left.
And of course, Ben doesn't want it. You can't.
Ben has gotten mouthier though about not liking the Canada play calls. That has come out.
He always says, "I like Matt. I like Matt. I just want to see, I want to see Ben type of offensive plays."
Curls. I think this was I mean, I haven't watched this episode, but just seeing the pull quotes, I'm like, that's a little more direct than some of the other criticisms.
But he had as much good to say about Canada as
Certainly.
Bad in that same episode.
I'm sure he did.
And
because he knows how to play these kinds of things and deal with these people. Yes.
And he's probably, I would have put Ben in maybe a top 10 villain before his farewell season. It seemed like for a lot of fans, he could do no right.
Haley was up there too. Was up there too. That's a good point. But I don't know. Maybe there was a feeling that if you chanted "Fire Haley," Haley would come up to your section and just start wailing on you. Haley was a different kind of guy.
Yeah,
he'd run into you at Tequila Cowboy.
You have to defeat him at the bar.
You're right,
take
exactly.
his job,
yeah,
take his place.
Yeah. It's like Highlander with shots.
He's drinking those icy light lemonades or whatever.
Oh, God.
Oh, dude, I had one of those.
Did you seriously?
When I went to the Bucks game back in
That's
September.
right. You messaged me, and I was like, "Oh,
it was garbage."
But the good news is, at least it had way too much sugar. I'm sure.
I guess.
I mean, when they do the lemonade, they just. Oh God, I'm sorry.
It was garbage.
But that's good. You phone on that grenade for all of us because I would have tried it.
Only thing more garbage is people complaining about a great win against the AFC North rival Ravens.
This is so bad. I'm complaining about the win.
Just, this should be a time of celebration, but let's get to the tweets, starting with @urinating tree Schlosser. This is easily the most undeserved win for the Steelers in several weeks. Oh, not even several years.
If you take it away several, it's actually a very funny joke. Like, it's if you just remove several, then this is the most undeserved win in weeks, which is great. I mean, it's interesting. When you check the standings, they don't have a little U in parentheses next to undeserved wins. That has yet to be marked.
That's a next gen stat.
I think Amazon handles that actually.
Undeserved wins.
Especially going into the bye week. I think this is part of it, though. I think this Canada derangement syndrome, I think a lot of people talk themselves into, okay, and again, this is all a way of coping with the Texans game. That's my theory, is that they lose, and then they come into the Ravens game, they lose badly, they don't make it back, and then Canada is magically fired over the bye, which, again, they could have lost by 70. There's probably no way that was going to happen.
Yeah. It's it was Ravens week. It was a win. Right. These things come down to the fourth quarter. They come down to the last possession. They come down to weird things. They come down to turnovers and weirdness and 2-point conversions that go wrong last season. And I mean, just the history of Ravens Steelers, 59 games, and they've all been,
Oh yeah, I mean, I think if you chart it back to Ray Lewis's career, it's there are very, very few exceptions of games that weren't close. I mean, they were some, but not many over the course of decades.
He can keep my tombstone or whatever. I'll take the W.
Just take the W.
These people can't, because because that's what happens when you become so much of a hater, is that you stop rooting for the right thing.
Yeah, well, that's what's been happening. Mm-hmm. How about at Chris Mueller, PGH, good old so-called fan, Chris Mueller, feels like about as hollow a win as there could be. So many unlikely things had to go their way, and it was still skin of the teeth. How many times will there be that many big drops and defensive playing superlative? Well, I mean, I'm hoping we got 13 more,
right?
12 more games like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it takes. That's how the NFL works. It's not just one team playing better than the other. It's mistakes happen and game-changing moments, referee calls, and you name it. And that was what we saw here.
And also, too, I'm always a little fascinated by the idea that one team making mistakes is in no way influenced by the other team. That's always a little weird. I mean, I know you saw the guy drop the easy pass. I know that gets to this weird idea of an undeserved win. But I forget who made the point, and I wish I could credit them. But, missing a block is just as big as dropping a pass. It's just you don't see it all the time. We don't count them the same way. It doesn't seem so dramatic to you, the person thousands, if not more miles away.
Yeah, Lamar had a bad throw. Yeah, maybe because there was a guy in his face or something. Or
even just, the idea that Lamar had this great game, which has become this weird apologist standpoint of no, he threw the ball in all these places and the guy dropped it. Okay.
Yeah.
What? That's fantastic. And also, we don't have time for it, but just him going to the press conference, Lamar being like, yeah, we didn't think we were going to drop all those balls out there. I was like, wow, imagine if Ben or Kenny had said that. My word.
Yeah. Ben would be, drugged through the coals.
But no one should say that. That to me was just really weird. Why would you say that, even if it's true?
Anyway, how about at PGH Sports Tweets, Pittsburgh Sports Tweets, the Ravens didn't earn that win, but in the end, neither did the Steelers. The defense won the game for the Steelers and some dumb, pure luck. Once again, proving what a fraud Mike Tomlin and Matt Canada are.
Can you follow the logic in that? It's like the child's maze on the, a placemat at a crappy restaurant.
What a fraud. Mike Tomlin wins against the Ravens again. What a fraud. When will this guy quit being a fraud against the Ravens?
Well, just the Steelers didn't win the game. The Steelers defense did. Oh, okay. Well, that's an important distinction. Yeah. One half, or actually, if you want to say 2/3 of the team won, the defense and the special teams, who were superlative, other than perhaps the end of Gunner. But even then, Rodney Williams, my word, what a game-saving play to tackle that guy. What a play.
There were many people, and maybe that's what we should move on to at Whippeal Sports News, Whippeal Sportsman. The reasons why we won. Joey Porter Jr., George Pickens, Chris Boswell, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. No other name should be mentioned unless you're pushing a narrative.
Pushing a narrative.
How about Ogunjobi's forced fumble? What about, Rodney Williams, you said. With
Rodney Williams, two amazing plays. I'm not seeing Miles Killebrew's name here anywhere.
Miles Killebrew
which is a
punt
guy
block.
that should be seen, as if not maybe the main reason.
Jalen Warren had some fourth quarter, second half moments.
Broderick Jones, however, they grade offensive linemen. They graded him very well, even though a lot of the line struggled. Again, we're back to. I'm always a little intrigued by the people that see pushing a narrative as the worst sin. I think that's also with the last guy who was bias or however that was going.
Very base.
It was very base. Bias.
Like the more names we bring up, it turns out this was a team win. No matter how
well,
you
no,
look
it was
at
just those guys won. The other members of the team didn't. It was just these guys. That's how
open
you do
field
it.
tackles by Quan Alexander.
Yes, who played a great game. You were talking. Who made the? I mean, he was instrumental in that goal line stand that led to the Porter interception.
Let's go back to at Tokyo Exmo Morgan.
Finally a good take.
Former Jens Hurst. Steelers can't keep winning like this. It's just not sustainable. Y'all must be new. It should be Jens must be new.
Well,
but,
I mean, who knows where these people are from? But yeah.
it's going to be like this for 12 more games.
Right.
It's going to be, we're not going to all of a sudden magically, even last season when we finished 6-2, we weren't putting up 400-yard games. It came down to the fourth against.
We know. In fact, we definitively know they haven't put up 400-yard games. But they were running the ball a lot better, and frankly, I expect them to do that coming out of the bye, especially coming into Los Angeles, where there's a pretty good passing attack for the Rams. But yeah, no. But this is not a bad take, though, to imply that this is exactly how these things can continue. I wish I'd sent it to you now. I don't know if you have it later, but the one guy they put up that stat about how can the Steelers keep winning, and all these people complaining. One guy at the bottom said, because football isn't played on a spreadsheet, you nerds.
Yeah, truth.
That's the bad, and no one responds to that. No one just lets this one brilliant take go by.
Right? That's how football works.
Right.
That's how
it's
sports
actually how a
work.
lot of life works.
That's how life works.
Yeah,
Good point.
but yeah.
All right, last thing on these complaining winners. At Chris Muller, PGH, we're back to Chris Muller.
Is.
Are the Steelers a good team? Yes, 15%. No, 85%.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
What if the poll was, are they a good enough team? And the answer's got to be yes. 3-2.
I bet you could get that all the way down to 73% if you put a good enough team.
Good enough to be 2-0 in the division. Good enough to be 3-2, despite all of our woes.
It's a shame we didn't have enough people busting out the old Parcells. You are what your record says you are this week, because I think that it really infuriated these people. It was wild if you went on Twitter after this game and saw how many Steelers fans were mad. There were people that really went into this thinking okay, this is it. I'm going to be justified. They're going to fire Canada. And then there was so much but I don't know but what do we do now? What? They were really kind of shell-shocked, frankly, in a way that I think a lot of fans were in the opposite way after the Texans game.
Mike Tomlin gets my game ball.
Mike Tomlin gets the win and gets my game ball, and it's a 3-2 team. All right, let's take a break.
Okay.
Coming up in the second half, we got to talk Kenny. We got to talk defense. I'll talk Tomlin. I'll talk Tomlin. I'll talk why we're praising Tomlin on this show.
Okay.
The Fancies praise Mike Tomlin. Fans, go turn in your towels. Did I say we'll talk defense?
I think that came up at one point or another.
Okay.
In the beginning, you did.
In the beginning?
Nice.
Now I got to edit out the curses. Okay. All
Leave
right.
that part in. We have to edit out the curses.
We'll be back in a moment.
For the heartbreaks. Remember the tears. Getting it all together takes so many years. Remember the close ones, and there were a few. You never gave up trying, wanting to come through. Well, this is your moment. You've learned how
this has been more therapeutic for you than I think in some of the losses.
I'm glad it was a win.
Yes, you're relieved. You're not pumping your fist. You're not jumping up and down. You're just relieved. Imagine that human reaction.
All right, second half. We promised to talk about Kenny at the Pony Express, Andrew Filipponi. Big Ben career passing rating versus the Ravens, 27 games, 85.9. Kenny Pickett passer rating on Sunday, 88.5. Yeah, Pickett didn't do anything for 3+ quarters, but he got the job done late, just like his predecessor. I'm not going to say, yeah, Kenny's better than Ben. No. With 27 games under his belt. But Kenny is 2-0 against the Ravens.
2-0 against the Ravens, and and these are all good points. And also, I think it was Matt Williamson that pointed out by the end the offensive stats had almost balanced out between the two teams. Secondly, if you want to see a masterclass in trolling, look at Filipponi's tweets after the game and how many of the haters went after him for pointing out the positive things about the game. It was very much like the part in the video game where like the villain works with you for a period of game. It is fascinating to see the haters lose their mind on Filipponi. It was really great. Like it was a
hater.
Yeah, they have Lamar's number. Harbaugh can't win these big. It was great. Like,
well, all facts, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's what 6 or 7 now. The Steelers against the Ravens, and most recently, yeah.
It's let's keep it up. We got to beat them one more time. I think if it's probably going to come down to it could come down to week 18 against Baltimore.
Exactly, and there's hopefully more undeserved wins on the horizon.
Oh, please, let's. Yeah, I'd love to clinch the playoff spot by then. Wouldn't that be something? Okay, how about let's go to the alumni take at Blitzburg. Chris Hoke believes Kenny Pickett needs a vacation during the bye week to calm down. I would send him to the Bahamas for a week. Let him clear his mind a little bit. This guy knows the offense. He's studied. Needs to calm down and relax. Come back refreshed and ready to go. I don't see Kenny as a high-strung guy in general. But does he need a break? Does he need a little sabbatical?
I don't think that's right, just because a lot of people were talking about that if don't have him start. Everyone kind of forgets this now. There was a lot of like, why have him start against the Ravens?
Yeah.
He's coming off that injury. We thought he'd miss weeks, and then he ended up being a big reason they won. So no, I don't think Kenny's a go rest kind of person. But I think this is something, again, this kind of speaks to that need inside the fan, your own thing of feeling that, like, if you say Kenny Pickett needs a break, it's probably that you need a break. Like, watching it. Like, I totally get that.
Okay, how about one more take on Kenny?
Oh, good luck pronouncing this.
I'll say it's Relic X.
Okay.
Relic.
We'll accept it.
3-2. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, the Kenny Pickett experiment is over. With the draft coming up and the QBs deep in the draft, I'm drafting a QB. I don't care.
Again, this is someone else that needs to go to the Bahamas for a week. That's what I got out of this tweet.
What would you eat? I'm not saying a first-round draft pick. Definitely not. Would you try to replace? I don't know how deep
they've been looking for a long-term backup to Kenny. They wanted to draft one last year. They liked that kid that went to UCLA, that played against Pitt in the bowl game, that went to the Browns. Dorian something dash his name. They liked him a lot.
He's starting a lot of this week, I hear.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of talent. He'd be a fine long-term backup. They liked that kid, and the Browns got him instead. So they are looking for that, like Kenny's. There's nothing like Charlie Batch, but like Bruce Gradkowski, Dennis Dixon. They do want to get a guy like that.
Kenny's Landry.
Yeah, in fact, that's probably a better analogy. That guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, enough about Kenny. Let's go to the Tomlin takes. At Damashek, Dave Damashek. Tomlin's got to go next level. Instead of having them put on pads for midweek practice, he should have let them take the pads off in the first place. Make them leave the stadium like that. Go to Giant Eagle like that. Mulch like that. Only way they're going to learn. A lot of people made fun. Oh, Tomlin's going to put pads on Wednesday, and that's going to turn it around. Well, I don't know if it turned them around, but they certainly played more physical against the Ravens.
It was a punchline up until like maybe a little ways into the third quarter, and then it ended up that the Steelers were frankly the more well-rested team at the end of the game. They were the more physical one in the second half in all aspects, both offense and especially in defense. So I mean, it was funny right up until the moment it wasn't, and ended up being a very good strategy, or at least part of one.
It's almost like, yeah, Tomlin knows what he's talking about. He's not just, well, sometimes he's just giving lip service, I guess, if he's talking mojo.
He openly said, like, but then it's nice of him to finally admit, like, look, I am lying to you.
But, it's, if physicality is what they need, and then that's what they brought. I
also do like the way Tomlin explained it after the Texans game, where he's like, I was standing on the sideline maybe through the first quarter. I'm like, yeah, we're practicing in pads next week. And I can definitely see thinking that myself the next time they get run on by some team with a very good run offense. Be like, pads next Wednesday.
This was a little, I don't know if this just kind of went under the radar. At Ross_McCorkle, Mike Tomlin just tied Paul Brown for 15th most wins of all time in the NFL. Post-merger, 166 wins. He has a mathematical chance to go to 11th all-time this season. He's 5 away from Mike Shanahan and Tom Coughlin. He's 7 away from Bill Parcells, and he's 8 away from the GOAT Jeff Fisher.
I had no idea Shanahan, Coughlin, and Fisher had this many wins. Like, I mean, I know obviously different game. I had no clue that the three of them had that many wins. No, but I mean, it speaks to how successful it is, because certainly, again, Tomlin's younger than a lot of these guys when they did this as well.
And if you look at those other guys, if you look at Mike Shanahan, Tom Coughlin, Bill Parcells, of course, Jeff Fisher, it took them many, many more years than Tomlin to get there.
Oh, yeah, Coughlin across multiple teams. I mean, by the time Parcells got those wins, remember, he was wearing those like big, almost moo-moo-like things when he was coaching the Cowboys, if you remember that.
So, he's going to be, this season, he could be 11th of all time.
It's hard to believe, but again, it shows just how successful these years have been, yeah.
So why would you want to get rid of any, it's like, I know teams fired Tom Coughlin. I know teams fired Parcells, but those names are revered now.
Well, let's see. It's the Jaguars fired Coughlin because he never got them to the Super Bowl, and the Giants fired Coughlin because after they won that Super Bowl, didn't they like fall off a cliff for several years? I mean, it was there were a couple different reasons. Coughlin, I forgot. I think Coughlin was also in Jacksonville a long time. He was the first coach.
Yeah, was that sound? Hey, that sounds right. I don't know if that's true, but that sounds right. Let's talk defense. At Steelers PR Michael Birch. In the second half, Steelers limited the Ravens to only 4 first downs, 0 by rush, and 91 total yards. More second half numbers. Ravens 0 for 6 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down. This is the defense that we've been expecting.
Yeah, this is exactly what it showed up to. Yeah, and it's and again, I know the drops figure into this somewhere, but again, great. These are high pressure situations, and the other guys weren't as ready for the high pressure. Maybe they can practice in pads or with 2 sets of gloves on. Who knows?
Yeah, double gloves. Even in the hot, it was in in Houston, man. It was hot, and he had those double gloves on.
Right. That's a lot.
Okay. Mm-hmm. At Steeler Rants. Highsmith had 11 pressures Sunday, the most by any player so far this season.
Wow.
He didn't show up in the stats for a couple games, but 11 pressers. That's what we're talking about.
No, he's become a star. I mean, he's as much as Bud was by the final season in Pittsburgh before the injury against the Ravens. I mean, Highsmith has become a star. It is the pipeline has continued of having the 2 separate outside linebackers. They set a plan, and the plan worked exactly as they thought the plan was going to. That's a rare thing.
Yeah, and the pressures disrupt the cover. It's like you can't have great coverage until we have the pressure.
But see, all these things work in tandem. That's why you can't be like, the Steelers lost. It was only the Steelers defense that won.
Can't say it. How about let's move on to at Reggie_Beeflo, Steeler Reg. TJ Watt legit has a chance to be the greatest defender in Steelers history. That includes Mean Joe Green. More people getting onto my bandwagon. I said it first. Of course, I say greatest Steeler of all time. And I still think he's on that pace. I'm not ready to crown him yet, but he's on the pace.
For me, that took a step back after the greatest Steeler of all time was unable to get the sack against the Houston Texans. That was that kind of that to me took a few hits back, and that's why because even Kovacevic did something about his TJ, the best player in the league, and after that game, I was kind of like, no, because the best player in the league would have given you a chance to beat the Houston Texans. That's not that TJ isn't great, isn't an all-time great, or very well could be the best Steelers defender, but he can't control every game all by himself. But no, I mean, he's certainly on, he's on a path to be in the conversation of that Steelers Mount Rushmore that they do every so many years. Someone talks about.
You like to say get the ring, and so we got to get him a ring,
yes.
And then I think we get him a ring. I think I'm ready to crown him right then and there.
It very well could be. But yeah, I mean, that's not impossible.
How about at David M. Todd? David Todd. It's amazing how often it's this simple. Steelers win turnover battle. We're 3-0. 3 wins, 10 takeaways, 3 turnovers. Steelers lose the turnover battle, 0-2. 2 losses, 1 takeaway, 3 turnovers. Is it just as simple as winning the turnover thing and not turning the ball over?
I mean, it's hard for me to say that just because they were blown out of those games, but it's not impossible. I mean, it's, maybe they get another couple turnovers. Maybe it's not a blowout. Maybe they hang around longer. Maybe the rookie fumbles then because, again, the Texans weren't looking great there in that third quarter. So in the end, it very well could be that simple.
So if that's the case, then I'm willing to go back to 2022, Kenny. Just keep the ball safe.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of where Tomlin was getting to, particularly after the Houston game, since that's because at the beginning I didn't think anything of it. Okay, he threw up this deep pass. It was the same play that went deep. It worked for the Raiders. It didn't work. It's interception, whatever. It's like a punt. But then you start to see some stats like this, and maybe I shouldn't have been so blasé about that.
So it's like, don't cry about, we're not throwing over the middle of the field. Okay, I'm not trying to turn it over. We're not, Big Ben wants these, USC style routes or something. It's like, just keep the ball safe. Don't turn it over.
It does give the rest of the team a chance to win, which is interesting because, again, they got getting some guys back after the bye. This Rams game will be a good test of all of this.
Yeah, I want to go, but I'm priced out.
I don't want to go.
King of the Fancies can't afford a ticket.
I have no desire to go.
You have no desire.
I don't want to see him on the road. I mean, maybe if I had several $1 billion, I'm going to sit in my luxury box and pour beers on my head if something good happens or something. But that's just not me. I don't like that energy. I've done it for hockey games. I've done it for baseball games, and that's enough. I don't like that either.
Okay, all right. Well,
but I get the appeal.
Well, I mean, we don't have a choice. It's like Los Angeles. You got to come out here. But there's some defensive haters like at Jason Shetler. Teryl Austin continuing to suggest that Joey Porter Jr. still isn't ready to start is peak level stubbornness of the Steelers coaching staff. I mean, forget the fact that the kid literally made a game-saving interception to help you secure first place in the division. Why can't Teryl Austin see what everyone else sees? Is that Joey Porter needs to be on there for 70 snaps instead of 30 snaps or whatever he's out there
30 snaps, right. I think what I take these tweets to mean more is that it's not so much that Joey Porter Jr. has looked good, and he has in a lot of cases there, but wow, have the other corners looked bad. I mean, Wallace and Peterson, that's been a mess.
When we haven't gotten pressure, a lot. Like I look at Houston. We couldn't get pressure, and
they got taken.
They got
apart.
and they were open.
Mm-hmm.
But put JPJ in that same situation.
And his arms aren't going to get any shorter, but still, that's a lot of time to be covering somebody. No, I mean, they have a plan. They're sticking to it. It's also, too, sure, of course, they're going to end up playing Joey Porter Jr. more and more. They have progressively more and more every game. But there's also something to the fact, again, this is the Steelers. They're not going to be like, wow, this rookie's great. We're going to play him all the time. I mean, I think the only time they ever did that was Pouncey, and that was very unique circumstances.
And, we still have haven't seen him. He's only coming in on obvious pass downs, so we don't know if Porter Jr. can step up in the box yet and stop the run or to make those kind of tackles.
But he's getting more and more snaps every game. He's playing well when he's out there. I mean, it's a good progression. And I got to say, again, the people at PFT, they know how to troll. I mean, having Porter Jr. as the highest rated cornerback over the course of the weekend, that's how you do it. That's how you get him talking about it. Like,
well, the other thing is that if he's out there for 65 snaps, there's going to be a level of fatigue, and he likes to get handsy. And
no, he's going to get some pass interference penalty. That's just as he learns the game at the pro level. Absolutely.
How about one more on defense here at Carney Media, Trey Carney. Teryl Austin was gifted a defensive coordinator job when honestly he didn't deserve it. He keeps proving why he shouldn't be in that position. Won't be shocked if Steelers are replacing 2 coordinators in the offseason.
The word deserve just keeps showing up. It is popping up like measles across today's episode.
So much splash on this defense, and I mean, sure, a lot of that is just T.J. Watt, but
you got to put him in a position to do that. You got to put the other guys in a position to help him. I mean, again, it's weird. I mean, now that I think about this, I think it's more like we're taking out the emotional toll of negative plays the Steelers make on offense and defense, and just kind of forgetting the positive ones because it's he didn't deserve it. You can't remove the splash plays the Steelers defense has made. This is very, very weird.
Well, isn't it ironic that the people that the fans hate on the most are whose jobs are least quantifiable? Like we don't know, we can't see what Teryl Austin is doing. We especially don't see what Matt Canada is doing throughout the week, and even in the booth there, we don't see what's on his little screen or what he's not.
The only time we see this is the screen behind him that also shows him on the TV.
Yeah, with the guy with the binoculars.
That was amazing in Houston. That was crazy.
So it's like all these, you can't quantify the job because you can't put a PFF grade on a coordinator.
Don't encourage him. Do not speak that into existence. Don't do it.
And so it's almost, those are the times when I wish Mike Tomlin would just come out with some clarity and say, yeah, Matt did a great job scheming this week, or Teryl, he likes to just say, it's all us, and I get that as a leader of men. I like that, that strategy as well. But sometimes I wouldn't mind him just being like he called out Miles Killebrew and says, yeah, this guy's a great guy. I wouldn't mind saying TA is out there really doing some good stuff.
I mean, that's unlike Tomlin. I guess it's not impossible, but yeah, I'd be very surprised if he were to say that.
He needs an award. We got to get Tomlin for the award show. We'll give out the Tomlin Awards at the end of the season or something. Instead of the Yinzies, we'll give the Tomlins.
There you go.
Let him give out his own awards. Oh gosh, I think that the band is trying to get on the phone. 3-2 in the 2-0 in the division.
There you go. Yeah.
What if that's the tiebreak? If it comes down to the tiebreaker against the Ravens and we got it because we beat them.
Who knows? I mean, well, you saw Kazor's thing about how it's this, the seasons the Steelers start 3-2 more times than not they make the playoffs. So I mean, they go 500 the rest of the way. They're at 9-8. They go any better than that, they're in. So
that's statistics. I love it. I love the math. Give me the math fans. Love it. All right, some odds and ends. Let's start with at Doozy Player. Nobody's talking about Broderick Jones at left tackle. I think his play helped in both the running game on his side and the pass protection for Kenny. Solid start.
Yeah.
The advanced metric stats were 0 pressures allowed, 97.6 run block win rate.
Okay.
95.3 XQR. Which must mean extra.
I think that's the new rock station in town. No, I mean but that's exactly what we heard. Is that this all makes sense and it's past the eye test. Jones played well, and presumably this is now just the next decade. I mean, but don't worry, fans of Dan Moore. I don't think he's going anywhere. Particularly after Chooks the most mind-bending penalty the Steelers have ever had at the end of a game there, that lining up over the wrong guy and extending it.
My understanding was that they didn't have...
Tomlin accepted blame for it. He was very upfront about that in the postgame
There was
press
only
conference.
10 men on the field on that play.
There wasn't someone next to him or something like that. But yeah, but that's if the Ravens had gone down to tie that, this would have come up a lot earlier.
Oh yeah, that'd be all we talked about probably for 40 minutes.
So yeah, so it's I could see the more Broderick Jones plays well, the more he's there forever, and the more maybe Dan Moore replaces Chooks after the season.
So do you think we see Dan Moore again this season?
I do. Oh yeah, because it's already guys are getting hurt, and they didn't like last year. You're absolutely going to see Dan Moore again. Someone else is going to get hurt.
How about let's go at Alex Kozora. Alex Kozora. I legitimately believe no Steeler in history has had a worse career than Gunnar Olszewski.
It's not crazy. I mean, because Senquez Golson never got into a preseason game. That would be the obvious answer. Yeah. It's not, I mean, the only one that comes close, and I keep forgetting his name, the year Ben gets hurt, the Duck Mason year, the receiver they signed from Indianapolis.
Moncrief?
That's it. Yeah. I want to say he was responsible for 2 interceptions off the top of my head, bounce off the tip of his fingers. They cut him like 5 weeks into the season, something like that. But that's the only one I can think of that's pretty close. And that's like recent history.
Yeah, that's a good one. But of course, everyone says Lima Swede.
Lima Swede, 2nd-round pick. Yeah, everyone remembers the drop, the easy touchdown in the championship game. Ladarius Green doesn't work because he did have that big catch against the Bengals. I don't know if they win that game without it.
Morgan Burnett.
Morgan Burnett's not crazy.
He was just not. He wasn't. He just wasn't.
He was
good.
just kind of old by then. And it might be what we ended up saying about Patrick Peterson too. There was that guy David whatever, one of the first linebackers brought in to replace Shazier, who was just old and slow. He was the one that when he eventually signs with the Washington franchise, he injures Burrow's rookie year, but I only remember his last name. But I mean, the point is, like, these are all within the range of possibility. Like there's no dismissing. Like, Kozora might be right.
Josh Scobie, I don't know. That's tricky.
Yeah, but it's also like, okay, the kicker missed some kicks.
Yeah.
I mean, technically that's a bad career, but it's also not like he was, not blocking correctly.
Gunnar went from all-pro to having 4 fumbles on 28 total touches in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Plus that fair catch.
Which is still the weirdest. I mean, that's like when you've started the game and your parents are explaining it to you, that's something you know not to do.
Well, let's go from the worst to maybe the best. At 412 Pitt South, JT, Chris Boswell, 33 points. Steelers offense, 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
People want to say, oh, that's, more ammunition against Canada. But I'm saying, hey, let's give more Boz. Let's give him the Boz to win the game.
I mean, I think it's kind of hard not to get to probably the greatest kicker in Steelers history. If he's not there, he's really getting close to it. But yeah, but again, these are all signs that it's, you're winning and getting by. Here's things we can improve. But again, this is very much, every time someone says undeserved, all I hear is, I'll take it.
Someone was saying, Gary Anderson has done it for more seasons in a career. He's got more like total points than maybe anyone in the NFL.
But I mean, I hate to be the eye test guy, but man, there are more 50-yard field goals made now than there ever were. And that's not just Boz, that's everybody. I mean, every team has a guy that can make 50 yards. It was just not that way in Gary's time or even after.
No. So, yeah, Boswell, good. And he's going to win some games, I bet.
Yes.
The way that these games are going.
Absolutely.
Don't be surprised if it's Boswell for MVP. Of course it's going to be TJ MVP, but maybe.
You never know.
Maybe number 2.
Know. Mm-hmm.
How about at Steelers win 109, Minka Berg Steelers. The good news, the Steelers already have more wins than they did through week 8 last year when they were 2-6.
Right.
2-6, but I know that it was some down weeks last season, but man, do I feel like this season is just worse just when it comes to resentment and negativity.
Oh yeah, I mean they came in with different expectations than they did even then. Also, they had those fans last year. We'd seen that team beaten down by many Super Bowl contenders like in a row, between Buffalo, between the Eagles. But yeah, I would like to have. It's the only time I've ever said this. I think I would have liked to click on this tweet and see all the haters yelling about this underneath it, because I'm sure sure there would have been. That's
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
rare times I would have liked to actually seen the comments. I say that now, safe, far from any computer screen.
You know,
But-
I tried to weigh in on a couple. Like I
God,
probably
Kyle.
replied to one out of every
Kyle.
1,000, and it was
Kyle.
just it
was
just
too much.
It was, man. People were just clowning me and all this, and all I'm saying is, all I'm really replying now. I'm just like, I'm rooting for Matt Canada. That's been my biggest reply. And
Which I think makes you apologist and base. If I've learned anything
I'm super
today.
base. Call me base. King of the Fancies is base, if anything.
I think the person meant bias, but I could go either way on that. Like I don't have an answer now. Like an hour later.
Let's give the final word to my voice. At Mark Cabali, if the season ended today, Steelers would be AFC North champs and the number 3 seed and host the Ravens in the playoffs. Man, I hope we don't have to host the Ravens. I don't want to play them a third time.
Ravens. Yeah, that rarely goes well.
If we have to play them in week 18 and then come back and play them a week later.
There's a proven track record of that not working out.
Have we? I don't know. Has it ever? I don't think we've ever had that. We've played the Browns 3 times a season, a couple times.
The Ravens 3. Yeah, they played the Ravens 3 times. They lost that game too. It was 2014, 2015, something like that. That was the one where, remember, they just signed that running back off the street who'd been with the Texans because he was like a veteran because they didn't have a running back. Anyway, they lost the game.
Oh boy! All right. Well, I think that's what we've been talking about.
That's what we've been talking
Oh,
about.
that is okay. Great.
There we go. Whew.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've been trying to just chime in a little bit because I'm just like, if not, what do they say? If when good men are silent, it's no difference than bad men or something. So I'm like, I got to go in there and,
There you go.
and fight for these Steelers, and then the
That's
replies just pile on.
I think
It's
that
like,
person was talking about social media, in fact, when they made that quote.
why? Even TikTok now is starting to get like, all of a sudden the other night it was all Matt Canada is not celebrating TikToks, and I'm just like, if TikTok
But see, that
goes
feels
bad,
like a TikTok thing. That feels like something where you could put a unique kind of TikTok insanity into it.
I'm if you want to follow me on TikTok, I'm at Kyle Kreis. Otherwise email, you can email us.
Yes.
KyleKreis@gmail.com. Leave a review on subscribe on YouTube. The YouTube channel is up there.
and running.
And or maybe a review on iTunes even or Spotify, whatever. Do us a solid because we're fighting. We're canoeing upstream without a paddle. Is that
Just a lot of pushing with like the cupped hands.
yeah, and with Mon water all over my shirt. I'm staining. I got that Mon water stain on my shirt. So help us out. Show us that we're not the only voices out there, because I feel like I'm the only voice trying to be reasonable with this. After week 5, I'm not giving up yet on week 5, so that makes me the bad guy.
An apologist.
King of the Fancies.
There you go.
Greg, you're on the internet somewhere.
Unfortunately, yes. Instagram at Greg Benevent, B as in Bravo, E-N-E, V as in Victor, E-N-T.
You can see Greg this Saturday at Flappers Comedy
Oh,
Club
yeah,
in
you're not going to
Burbank.
be there, I
I'm
saw.
not. I'm going to see Eddie Izzard. So.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a good reason.
Yeah, it's like I want to actually see some real comedy.
Oh, hey!
False.
It's about time. Yeah, believe me.
Until next week, we're gonna try to do something. Can we try to do something special?
We might as well. It's the
Instead
bye
of
week.
instead of just the same lame fan takes. We'll try
They'll
to do
find something else to get crazy about, even without a game.
Oh yeah, believe me, the Pens will be playing. So, all right. Until next week, keep listening to your coach.
Be their best selves. That's going to be required.
Stay in school.